Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted via WebEx, an online digital platform, and will be live streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Nancy Oman and I will be chairing this hearing. Panel members participating via WebEx and who can be seen and heard are Zahir Bayat, Carl Nipfel, Larry Clay, and Peter Reed. City staff will be assisting us throughout the meeting, including moderating the WebEx platform. Agents, applicants, and other interested parties participating in this virtual hearing registered in advance and will be connecting through WebEx using a compatible electronic device. Their participation will be through audio only. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting for the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision for an application must submit a written request by email to the general email address for the Committee of Adjustment, Toronto and East York District Office. Please include your name, address, and an email address. All Committee of Adjustment and TLAB notifications and appeal updates will be sent by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, known as TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, known as the OLT. Appeal instructions will be set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. Participants who have registered in advance will be connected to this virtual hearing and will be muted automatically upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please speak slowly. Clearly state your name and address. Please confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Where required, the applicant or agent will proceed first with a presentation of the application, and then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have completed their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will be unmuted and will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes of the last Committee of Adjustment public hearing been confirmed by the members?
Good morning, Madam Chair and panel members. No, not at this time.
Okay, so we're not adopting any minutes right now then?
That is correct.
Okay. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are you aware of any requests to close or withdraw files in this morning's session?
Yes, there is one file. It's item 41, 200 Bay Street. It is scheduled for 4:30 or shortly thereafter. The applicant has requested to withdraw this file.
Okay, can we do that now even though it's in the afternoon session?
Sure.
Okay. Panel members, item 41, 200 Bay Street, the applicants are withdrawing. Can I have a motion to close the file? Okay, so moved by Mr. Bayat. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Nipfel? Okay, so the motion to close the file, moved by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, so that matter has then been dealt with. Members of staff, panel members, do you have any interest to declare? Anybody in this morning's session? Mr. Clay?
Yes, Chair. I would like to declare a conflict on number 4, please.
Number 4? Okay,
Yes.
and the reason? Is there, like, I think we need to write something down.
I am acquaintances with several of the folks who have expressed some interest in this one.
All right, so you have a personal connection to people on the file. Is that okay?
Yes.
Wording it like that? Okay, so that's Mr. Clay. Anyone else have an interest in this morning's session? No? Okay, I think that's it. All right. I think it might be better to go as we are, because some have a lot of speakers listed, if I recall. Okay, so we're gonna start with item number 1, which is 57 Hunter Street. And we have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. No further correspondence, and I'm not showing any, actually I do show a speaker. Do you have that person on the line? Okay, before I go to the agent, hi, Debbie, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Are you opposing this application, or are you?
Yes.
Okay, and you'd like to speak?
Yes.
All right, so we'll come back to you then. So we do have one speaker. Do I have the agent on the line? We're just unmuted.
James Waterfall speaking.
All righty.
Hello?
So, yep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's James Waterfall speaking.
Okay, so we do have one speaker in opposition listed, and so if you can do a brief presentation, no more than 5 minutes, please.
Yes, sure thing. Okay, so this house is currently, in its existing configuration, is a 2-story semi-detached home with a flat roof. The property runs north-south, and the adjacent property, I guess on the east side, they run perpendicular to this one, and they are accessed by a different street. On the west side, the house attached shares the same configuration in terms of property running north-south off of Hunter Street. There is a driveway to the right of, to the east side of the property, and the adjacent property to the east has a garage which abuts this property, which is accessed from Hunter Street. And then the proposal is to add a 3rd story to the existing dwelling, and it's roughly to the extent of the existing walls. There is a single-story veranda at the front, and then you enter the house, and it's essentially an extrusion of the existing 2-story building, which has a basement also, and there is an existing deck which comes off the back. The roof or extension component was designed as a mansard type roof on the north face, which faces the street, to make it a little bit more sensitive to the area. The adjacent house, the one that is attached, has a flat roof and I think that's my presentation, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have you back after we hear from the opposition. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Ms. Melnick, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can
Yeah,
you-
I am Debbie Melnick. I'm the neighbor who lives directly behind 57 Hunter on the east side. And I am well aware that everyone has the right to build and expand their property.
Just hang on one second. Can
Sure.
we need your address for the record, please.
Oh, sorry, 24 Condor Avenue.
Okay, so now I'm gonna start the clock and you have 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna be less than 5. Okay.
Well, all right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm the neighbor who lives directly behind 57 Hunter on the east side, 24 Condor Avenue. And while I'm well aware that everyone has the right to build and expand their property, I would ask the committee to not allow windows overlooking our backyard. They already had put in some windows which weren't there before they moved in, which has already reduced our privacy, but I don't want it reduced even more. And we really value our privacy. With the third floor addition, we're already going to have reduced sun in our backyard. I've actually been measuring where the sun comes at various times since I've gotten this application, and later, as the sun sets, it will be reduced greatly, and this will make it much colder in the winter. We spend a lot of time in the summer in our backyard, so we hope that while we probably won't be able to stop this, that they can be respectful about the build during the process and considerate of their neighbors' legal right to quiet enjoyment of their property, our property. And again, we reiterate, we do not want windows overlooking our property, eliminating our privacy. And yeah, we obviously would not want this build to go ahead, but I believe we don't have any choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Seeing none? Thank you. Mr. Waterfall, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
Okay, can you just address the issue raised? The windows and the construction is not under the jurisdiction of this panel, but if you can be mindful of the neighbors, that would be great.
Yes, no, absolutely. You know, the homeowners have lived here for some time, and they do want to stay in the neighborhood, but with a little bit more space. So they absolutely want to, you know, ensure that, you know, that neighborhood aspect, that the respect the neighbors is retained. So on the construction front, they would do construction during normal hours. In terms of the window, I assume it's the one on the back of the house that's the concern. We have shown. I'm guessing that the individual, Debbie, could look at the drawings. A2-5 shows a little roof projection in an effort to provide some privacy. I could extend that projection in effect to kind of shield the views a bit more, or I could. What else could we do? I could reduce the size of the window. It is sort of the third story addition only has windows on the back and on the south and on the north side. So to eliminate the window altogether would be unfortunate and make the upstairs very, very dark. So it would be nice to get the neighbor's opinion if a reduction in the window size, perhaps, and an extension of the roof projection, as shown, would sort of address the concerns over privacy.
Okay, before I ask very quickly the neighbor, panel members, do you have any questions of the applicant or any other suggestions? Mr. Niffel, any suggestions on how to mitigate the window situation?
Oh, I have a question, another question, so I hold that until he's finished talking about the window.
I think he's finished, but do you want to go
Okay,
ahead?
my question is a very simple one. There's an attached, semi-detached, and it seems to me that the property most impacted by this addition is the attached semi. It will remain as a two-story flat roof, and the proposal is to add a third story on this semi. My only question is the owner at, I think it's 55, the attached semi, have you been in touch with them, or are they in support of the application?
The homeowner has been in touch with them and reviewed the file. I don't have a letter of support from them, so I can't speak to that personally, but I do not have a letter of support from them yet, no.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Ms. Melnick, are you there?
Actually, I can actually talk about that as well. The person in the semi, actually, their English isn't very good. It's an older Chinese couple, so that's why they aren't saying anything or objecting to anything. So
Okay,
just so that you-
yeah, thanks, but I just want to stick with the windows. So did you hear the suggestion made by the applicant?
Okay, you had said it's on the back side. I'm referring specifically to the east side of the property.
Okay.
And what I was asking is to put the windows on the west side, which, by the way, in the winter, if you put them on the west side, which like would be overlooking that semi-detached, and that wouldn't bother the semi-detached because it's above their house, they actually would get a view of CN Tower in downtown, because in the winter, that's what we have. So if you put it on the east side and the south side, it would be just as good as putting it on, sorry, the west side and the south side, it would be better than putting it on the east side. So when you say the windows are on the back side, I'm talking specifically the east side of the house along where the driveway is.
All right,
And I can't tell from the drawings where the windows are, quite frankly, so.
okay. I'm going to go back to the applicant now, the agent. Okay, Mr. Waterfall, just quickly, you heard what was said?
Yeah, sure. There are in fact no windows proposed on the east side of the dwelling at the third floor, nor actually on the west side. Those wouldn't really be possible, I don't think anyway, but there are no windows along the, let's call them the long sides of the house. There's only a window proposed facing the street and facing the south. So hopefully that addresses the concern.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any further questions for Mr. Waterfall? Mr. Bayat? You're on mute.
Mr. Waterfall, just to clarify, the window at the rear, that is the topic at the moment, it's not protruding as in a bay window, am I correct?
That's correct. It's not a projecting window. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, let's take it into committee then. Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, I remain a bit concerned that we've got a semi-detached project here, and one half is being dealt with in a way that's quite inconsistent with the other half. However, I think the one mitigating effect here, or situation here, is that this is the end of a row of housing. There's a lane at the end, so this is actually the bookend unit. It would have been helpful to have comments from 55. I'm assuming they don't have major concerns, and based on the location of this particular semi as the end building, I think it's quite reasonable to recommend the approval of the variances which allow this to be built. So on that basis, Madam Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application without conditions. I think it meets the 4 test.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed? So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? The application has been approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, the next item is item number 2, 39 Mutual Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, email correspondence from parking, as well as transportation engineering and heritage preservation. Transportation and right-of-way management are okay. Heritage has a condition in their August 18th report. And we have correspondence in opposition from 41 and 43 Mutual Street, as well as 24 Cayuga Street, which is in St. Catharines, but that is the father, I believe, of one of the homes there, and 37 Mutual Street. The issues raised that I read were the hotel use, the parking, and concerns regarding the character of heritage. Is the agent on the line?
Yes, it's Barry Goldman speaking. I am here.
You're here for 39 Mutual Street?
I am here to speak to 39 Mutual. I'm the architect and the agent for this.
Okay, so Michael Plummer is not speaking then, that's who I have listed.
That's correct. Michael was on standby in case I was unable to make the meeting.
Alrighty, do we have the speaker? Okay, we do have one speaker listed, Mr. Goldman, so can you please do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes?
Certainly. Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Barry Goldman. I'm the architect and the agent for this application. This is an existing heritage building. It's part of a row. It has been used illegally as an Airbnb for some time. The current owners would like to formalize and legalize that use and turn it not to an Airbnb but a hotel. The proposed addition is about 31 square meters and is set back from the front wall sufficiently that it is not visible from anywhere on the street. We did provide a cross-section showing a 6-foot-tall eye level. Someone standing on the opposite side of the street would be unable to see it. Heritage has indicated this is acceptable to them. But broadly speaking, you wouldn't know we put it up there from anywhere in the public realm. We believe, particularly given that it has been used as an Airbnb for some time, that legalizing the use and permitting a hotel use is an appropriate use for a heritage building in this neighborhood. The neighborhood is currently experiencing a lot of new density, and I understand why the objectors are objecting, but the reality is that is the path for this neighborhood. And we do need more legitimate hotel uses. The Airbnb thing can be a problem, and we believe that by formalizing it, legalizing it, and doing it properly, this will alleviate the issues that they've raised. In terms of parking, I'll just say we're downtown. There is street parking. Less people are using cars, and more importantly, transportation has no issue with it. So with respect to the people that have objected, I don't think that their objections should be considered as serious. Additionally, I know this was too late for it to be included into the file. We did include a letter in favor from number 37, which is the building to the south. So we do have the support of the neighbor to the south. I think that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if you like.
I think we'll go to the opposition first, and then we'll have you back for questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Actually, before you go, I have one question. Are any of these variances existing conditions? Because
Yes, a lot of them are technical. The 0 parking space is existing condition. Type B loading space is existing condition. Variance 3, the floor level is existing condition. Variance 4, the floor level is existing condition. Variance 5, we are proposing to add about 30 square meters, but the bulk of the building is there, and really we're seeking to formalize the existing use. Variance 6 is also technical, it's existing conditions. Variance 7, this addresses the proposed 4th floor addition, and it is created by virtue of the fact that we set that wall so far back from the front to preserve the heritage character of the building to render the fourth floor invisible from the public realm. And then finally, variance 8, I'll suggest again, this is an existing building, so I'm going to say that's technical and really to do with existing conditions.
Okay, thank you. Do I have, is it Ms. W on the line?
Yes, I'm going to be speaking. I'm her son.
What's your name?
David Caprile, same last name.
Okay. And are you at the same address then, or it's yours just speaking
Yes.
for this?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start the clock now. You have 5 minutes.
Sure. So we're the registered owner at properties 41 and 43 Mutual Street, which is just north of the applicant. We, in those units, have 8 long-term rental units, some of which we have tenants that have been there over 10 years, which is actually the original use of 39 Mutual Street, when it was sold to the existing owner that ran it illegally for a number of years as an Airbnb. Now, he's looking to just legalize his Airbnb by getting it totally rezoned. So just because they want to do that, it's not really, it doesn't coincide at all with the vision of the City of Toronto. This is unfortunate given the current rental housing crisis in the City of Toronto that we're now faced with. So I'd like to go on public record as being opposed to this proposed multiple minor variances that have been applied for on this property. I've taken the time to familiarize myself with the Planning Act legislation as it relates to the role of the Committee of Adjustment and the 4 tests that the committee must consider and ensure compliance within making a decision. The applicant has applied for a total of 7 minor variances. While most of them, yes, are technical in nature, there are 2 variances which I am strongly opposed to, and the reasons for my opposition are outlined below. So the purpose of his application is to permit 8 new hotel suites for short-term stays. Just in saying 8 hotel suites, that's 16 to 20 people that will be entering and exiting this building on a daily basis, plus cleaning. Just so we're all on the same page here, this building is only 16 feet wide. It is very, very small. That is a lot of people coming in and out, plus cleaning. As well, there is only 1 parking spot that is there. So I don't know how garbage, cleaning, any type of maintenance services will be in and out of that building at all. The subject lands are zoned commercial residential with provisions which permit grade-related commercial uses only, with residential uses above grade. The intent of the zoning, from my understanding, is that the principal uses shall be residential and the secondary ancillary use, if desired on the main floor, would be commercial. So as an ancillary use, the commercial use is limited to a floor space index of 0.5. The application seeks to permit 100% commercial uses, the hotel suites, and no residential uses at all. So I fail to see how a use variance such as this is minor or generally conforms with the intent of the zoning bylaw, because certainly, clearly, it does not. And a proposal of this nature should only proceed through a formal rezoning process, not by way of a minor variance at all. This is not a minor variance. The application, specifically variance number 5, proposes to increase the floor space index of the lot from 0.5 to 1.76, as the CR zoning only permits commercial uses with a maximum floor space index of 0.5. So the requested increase in floor space index represents a tripling of the maximum permitted commercial floor space. So obviously this is not a minor increase when the maximum permitted standard is tripled. Again, a proposed increase of this magnitude is something that is best dealt with through a rezoning application, not a minor variation, not a minor variance application. We're concerned about soundproofing of walls, insurance issues, also, and again, like every day when you open the newspaper or in any type of media, the mandate of the City of Toronto is to provide more housing, not reducing, as this will do. They're actually going to be reducing housing because this is a building that was meant for rental properties. And they're reducing that by attempting to rezone. Also, just in retorting with the previous speaker, there are 2 hotels within 1 block of this property. So, you know, there's a lot. As well, there's right now 2 existing parking spaces at that property. So they will be taking 1 parking space out by putting the, I believe, the fire escapes there. So in conclusion, this application does not meet all the tests of a minor variance under the Planning Act, as it fails the tests outlined above, and it should definitely be refused.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Panel members? Seeing none? Okay, thank you very much, David. Mr. Goldman, are you there?
Thank you. So addressing the previous speaker's comments, I'd suggest, again, the GFA is largely technical. We're mostly repurposing existing. The addition is 32 square meters, and again, is invisible from the street. With regard to process, and I do understand why a neighbor may not like it, I'd suggest that despite their opinion, planning staff neither objected nor suggested this should be subject to a rezoning. For better or worse, it's not my call as the architect or someone else's. It's planning staff who decides and what process this should be put through. And in their opinion, we were scheduled for committee. Again, I do believe an addition of 32 square meters is minor. In terms of the other nuisance issues, again, I'll suggest that by legalizing and formalizing the use, we'll be able to address those properly, and things should improve. It is a downtown location, and the commercial use is permitted, and we, again, feel like a hotel in this location is a good use for that property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, panel members, for Mr. Goldman? Mr. Clay, and then Mr. Nipfel.
Sure, just a couple. You mentioned that your proposal is basically trying to legalize short-term rental, Airbnb. But I note that what the challenge is that a lot of those units were constructed without the benefit of a building permit. So it's not just legalizing use. I guess I just want to confirm that you're going forward trying to legalize the actual renovation that took place previously. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. No, we are gutting the building and reconfiguring it. The walls, if you look at the plans, the walls with cross hatches on them are new walls. So we're basically, with the exception of the basement, we're reconfiguring the building. So main floor, yeah, it's new stairs up and down, new walls throughout, and that carries on. But there were some building code issues with the existing configuration. It was constructed without the benefit of a building permit, so the new construction is code compliant. It's a new layout. I'll just say it now.
Okay, that's actually quite helpful. We can't make it. You did hear the adjacent neighbor talk about soundproofing, so one hopes that perhaps as you rebuild that.
We will certainly be adding soundproofing to the common walls. Yes.
And lastly, you'll forgive me, but it's deemed a hotel, and I did scan the various floor plans. When my mind of a hotel usually has some sort of reception area or some sort of common area. I didn't see any in those plans. Is that, so these are all direct entry units?
They are all direct entry units. That's correct. There will be a manager who is nearby, but yeah, you get the key to the front door, or the key code, I should say, and then a key code to your unit, and that's how it will work.
So even though it's called a hotel, it's actually different from what we would normally anticipate a hotel, how it would operate.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Nipfel.
One of my questions was the same as Mr. Clay's. My other question is, there's a fair bit of work that's been undertaken without the benefit of approval or permit. Was your client the owner at that time?
Yes, I believe he was.
Why did he proceed without a permit or approval?
He did have a building permit for some of the work, and I don't think they understood how the city works and what is required to. They went ahead and built some stuff without the benefit of a permit, and then realized that this was not a viable plan, and that's more or less why I became involved with the project. So this effort you see before you is an attempt to ameliorate all of those issues and put forward a building code compliant proposal.
A covering letter outlining that background would have been helpful and saved us some time. My other question has to do with elevation A7. Are those existing exits, which they're effectively walkways and stairways to provide access and entrance to the building, are they existing?
No, there is an existing fire escape on the back of the existing building, but we proposed to replace it with this one. We had to do a little bit of gymnastics just to ensure 2 means of egress from each floor, and that's what this staircase will accomplish. So essentially we're replacing an older metal fire escape with a newer fire escape that will also provide decks on the rear.
Have you discussed the privacy issues with the neighbors? I realize that there isn't a privacy issue immediately to the east because that's a different use, but it seems that those platforms and stairs are they're intruding into the privacy of adjacent properties. Now, you indicated that the people on the, I believe, the south are in support. What about the people on the north? Because this is a row of actually quite handsome historic buildings, and presumably all that construction on the back is going to create a privacy concern for those people.
The people to the north were the ones speaking earlier. The people to the south were in favor. Additionally, I'll suggest that the rear of the building fronts onto a laneway. It's not a backyard condition, it's a public laneway. I'll suggest it's currently an unhandsome laneway. We do hope that as development takes place in the neighborhood that laneway will be improved, but there's no private space for overlook there. It's fronting onto a pretty rough lane.
Thank you.
Mr. Bayat, you had a question?
Just a quick one. I'm not sure if my understanding is correct that the intended use is a hotel, which presumably would have to be registered as a hotel with the city and has to function as whatever the definition of a hotel is relative to an Airbnb structure.
Yes.
I'm inclined to suggest that if this goes through, if this application is approved, that one condition be attached, and that is that the use be that of a hotel registered with the city, as opposed to an Airbnb that is, modified a brand new Airbnb, because as you indicated, there's no hotel lobby or front desk as such. It's entered. Wouldn't be anything dissimilar to an Airbnb at the moment, except it would be a completely renovated one.
Before I go to you, Mr. Goldman, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, is that a condition that we can impose, or could we just put it in the notes that the applicant undertake that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would suggest that the applicant undertake that. It would have to meet the definition of hotel, and I'm not certain that that applies here.
So can we just list that in the notes then, so Mr. Bayat, I think that's the only way that we could do it, is list it in the minutes, in the notes, that we have asked that the applicant undertake that, but we can't, we cannot put it as a condition.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's take it into committee then. Any comments or a motion? And maybe if I can have staff put the heritage report up while we're in committee, that'd be great.
I'm happy to start, Chair. I think we've had some good dialogue about this application. I think we fully understand. I think Zahir's suggestion is actually a very good one. Because when someone applies to us to convert a building to a hotel, I think we should, it's an obligation on us to ensure in some fashion that that actually is what is registered with the city and is done properly. So I think that's a really good suggestion. This location is downtown. It is in an area where I think there is demand for short-term rentals, be it Airbnb or otherwise. I think they've worked hard with the city. They've got heritage involved. I don't see it having a dramatic impact on the neighborhood, given that it's all rental already. So for that reason, I'm supportive of it, and I'm happy if my colleagues don't disagree. I'm happy to move a motion.
I see heads nodding, so go ahead with the motion.
Okay. I'll move a motion to approve this application, subject to the heritage condition. Not sure what the date of their correspondence was.
August 18th.
Thank you. And have it noted in the minutes that, so here I don't know what the language would be, but perhaps something to the effect that the applicant proceed to register or receive required approvals as necessary from the city for the operation of this facility as a hotel.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do I,
And I would second that, Madam Chair.
okay. Seconded by Mr. Bayat. So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? The application has been approved with those, with the heritage condition and adding the undertaking to the notes. Okay, item number 3, 41 to 45 Spadina Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from the agent, as well as a rental housing application letter from the agent. And we have planning, they have a report which has a condition regarding the rental demolition. Do I have the agent on the line? I'm not showing any speakers.
Yes, good morning. This is Kate Cooper from Bearsford. I'm the agent on the application.
Hi, you're aware of the planning report?
I am, yes. I've read the staff report and am aware of the condition and do not have any concerns in that regard.
Okay, panel members, do you need a presentation on this one? Do you have any questions? Seeing none? Okay, Ms. Cooper, on the panel, we've read all the materials. We don't have any questions. We don't require presentation. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions before we go into committee?
No, Ms. Chair, I don't think I have any other questions or anything to add. I just appreciate your time today. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, well, Mr. Niffel?
I'm sorry, I was going to move approval if.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
appropriate.
I didn't get to say in committee, but we are. Go ahead.
I think this is a very straightforward and desirable application to increase some housing stock. It has little to no impact on the immediate neighborhood other than to provide some additional housing. So subject to the condition from strategic planning, I think it's strategic initiatives, policy analysis, I'd like to recommend approval of the application.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed? Okay, motion to approve, including the planning condition in the May 18th report, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? The application has been unanimously approved. Item number 4, 22 Bearsford Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, copy of the revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, as well as a rendering and email correspondence from the agent. We have email correspondence from transportation, and I believe they're asking for a condition. It's in the email. We have 6 form letters in support from residents on Beresford and Dury, as well as Morningside, and we have correspondence in opposition from number 19, number 5, number 50A, 24 and 1 Beresford Avenue, as well as the Swansea Ratepayers Association. And I am showing 4 speakers. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Alrighty, we do have opposition here listed, so if you can start your presentation, you've got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, happy to. Thank you. So the application is for a renovation of the existing 1.5-story dwelling with a proposed full second floor addition and third floor addition. The subject site is in the Swansea neighborhood of Toronto, located south of Bloor Street West and in between South Kingsway and Hyde Park. The homeowners have lived in the neighborhood for many years and love the unique central location. However, existing house is progressively worsening condition and is currently too small to support their changing and expanding family needs and remote work necessities. So we have worked very closely with city planning to alter the initial design concepts to develop what you see here today based on their recommendations. I'd like to go over the variances that we're proposing, starting with item 1, building height. So the proposed building height is 9.94 meters, where the maximum is 9 meters. The site fronts on Bearsford Avenue, which has a steep incline from Morningside Avenue to DeForest Road. 22 Bearsford is located near the bottom of this incline. However, the incline does create a 0.46 meter difference between the north side lot line and south side lot line at the front yard setback. So this slope continues toward the rear of the lot, where the property slopes down 3.83 meters, which is quite significant. In the design of the dwelling, we have maintained the existing basement slab and worked up from this fixed point. The proposed height variance is being requested to maintain modest floor to ceiling heights while working with an established grade that is lower than the finished grade. This proposed increase of height is consistent with other approved variances, including 15 Beresford at 10.51 meters and 60 Beresford Avenue at 10.22 meters. We feel this variance is minor in nature and in keeping with similar approvals in the neighborhood and surrounding build form.
Okay.
In regards to item 2, floor space index, the proposed floor space index is 1.09 times the area, where the maximum is 0.60. So the proposed design was developed in collaboration with our clients and developed specifically for their space requirements. While designing, our goal was to keep the design and size compatible with precedents set by similar houses in the community. So Swansea is an evolving neighborhood, and this is reflected in the similar variances approved, including 15 Beresford at 1.18 times the area, 60 Beresford at 1.12, and 57 Beresford at 1.24. It is our opinion that this variance is minor in nature and in keeping with similar build forms. It is a narrow lot, so that's one of the reasons that this calculation may seem higher, but still within their existing builds. In regards to the side yard setback for item 3, we're proposing a 0.46 meters on the south side, where maximum is 0.9 meters. The proposed side yard setback on the south side of the dwelling is for the proposed rear, second, and third floor addition that is built in line with the existing side wall. So we are working with existing conditions, as this is still an addition. The request is to bring the addition in line with the existing dwelling to simplify construction and provide modest interior room sizes and floor plan configuration in this narrow lot. The proposal is consistent with other approved variances on 41 Beresford at 0.45 meters and 125 Beresford at 0.37 meters. So we believe this is minor in nature, and we are working with existing conditions for this. Item 5 is fairly minor. It's more speaking to the architectural feature wall adjacent to the porch. It encroaches 1.22 meters, where the maximum is 0.6 meter. So this architectural feature is built in line with the proposed porch and serves as both an architectural feature as well as provides support for the roof above the porch. Although considered an architectural feature, the structure is functional as a column for the roof above the porch. The proposal is consistent with similar approved variances, such as 41 Beresford. I believe it's minor, and it also helps to break up the elevation so that it's more dynamic and increases curb appeal to have a better fit in the neighborhood. Item 6 speaks to exterior main wall height. The proposed exterior main wall height is 7.35 meters, where maximum is 7 meters. So designing the dwelling, we have maintained existing basement slab, worked up from this point. And the proposed main wall height variance is being requested to maintain modest floor to ceiling levels from the established grade. So the established is lower than the finished grade. This variance, due to that, is fairly minor.
Mr.
We tried our best.
Zabzuni, can you wrap it up, please? You're over 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So we worked very closely with planning. Neighbors have, the owners have spoken with neighbors, and we have submitted letters of support. We've worked with transportation as well. We're working with existing condition, done a lot of studies and provided supporting material and evidence. We strongly believe that this is well fitting within the neighborhood. The variances are minor, and the home needs the space for the growing family. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hold the questions, I think, till we hear from the opposition. Ms. McCluskey, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yep, Sabrina McCluskey. I'm at 19 Beresford Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, as the previous speaker indicated, there are 9 variances on the home, but I would argue that I don't think that they're all minor. Specifically, floor space, which is 80% over what we're currently zoned for, I think is material as well. The side setback, the architectural feature, and the height. In all of those cases, I would consider those variance requests to be material, not to be minor. In addition, the parking, there's currently a parking pad at the site, and the owners have been kind of soliciting signatures from neighbors for a new parking pad. But the new parking pad will move to the south side of the lot. It's currently on the north side of the lot, and that should be included in the variance correspondence that I've done, because, you know, I think that's a material change, and parking is a real problem in this neighborhood, so we just all need to understand what the change. So, you know, my argument is that the changes are not minor, they are material and should be reduced, or I think, you know, would have to go for a zoning change, I guess.
Okay, panel members, any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. McCluskey. Mr. Zechner, are you there?
Yes. Thank you very much. Frank Zechner, I'm at 24 Bearsford Avenue. We've been in this home since 1989, and we do affirm that the owners of 22 Bearsford have been in contact with us. They went so far as to provide additional drawings and information and a mock-up of what the views would be front and back of the home, so we very much appreciate that. They are seeking 9 separate variances, similar to the speaker just before me. We consider the variance for floor area number 2 to be significant. Again, we're concerned that there's an escalation curve that continues to go higher and higher and higher. To currently, the limit is 0.6. Clearly, there's many homes in the area that are 0.9 or 1.0. When you start going to 1.1, 1.4, 1.5, where is the end in sight? So we would be in support of this if there was a bit of a pullback in terms of the gross square footage area. And the only other concern we have is with the variance number 9, which has a 10.83 proposed height. I understanding from the presentation by the agent that this is at the back end only, where this is an exceedance, not at the front or the sides. So if that is the case, we're fine with that, and we would only have a concern about the overall square footage going to almost 1.1 versus the 0.6. We are in support of all the other variances that they are seeking, and of course we would be happy to consent to a movement of a parking pad and legalization of it.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. Ms. Kosharska, are you there?
Hi, Monica, you're unmuted. You may need to unmute on your end. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving.
Okay, can we go to the next person in the meantime? Hi.
Alina?
Hello, good morning.
Hi, who is this?
This is the owner of 20 Bearsford, Alina Scarina.
Okay.
May I speak?
You can. We're going to start the clock now, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just as I mentioned, I'm the owner of 20 Bearsford. We are the neighbors directly south of the proposed structure, and we have 94 centimeters apart from our homes. We have a couple of concerns with regard to light impact and privacy, most importantly. Other concerns involve the overall construction process because we have a very small walkway between our houses. So any kind of vibration would be potentially devastating to our home because it was built in the late 1800s. So the privacy issue, the biggest one that we have is that the placement of the window on the new construction on the second floor, the south side, will face our daughter's bedroom window. So we would kindly request for an opaque treatment or something that would protect our privacy. And this would be on the page 19 of the updated plans in the PDF. And the other privacy concern is about the deck height of the new build. We would maybe ask for the privacy screen on the third floor to be increased, the privacy screen of the deck. Because again, our houses are really close to each other. And another concern, the last concern, is the light reduction. So currently, the light that gets into our house is from the west side, from the backyard. And with the new build, it will create a substantial obstruction on that side, and it will impact the light that comes into our home substantially. So we are wondering if there could be a light impact study done to determine to what extent this will impact the quality of our being in our home. So I am. This is to do with the variances, and I'm wondering if I could bring up any construction concerns.
That is not under the jurisdiction of this committee, and so we can only ask the applicant to undertake that he keeps the neighbors in mind with construction and pass that on to his client.
Okay.
But we can't put any conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have Ms. Kosharska?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Monika Kucharska, and the address is 30 Beresford.
Okay, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you. My only concern, my concern is a little bit similar to the previous participant, is that the house it is on the large side and it has 3 stories. However, it was quite sensitive in comparison with some other constructions that have been happening in the last years in our neighborhood, and the fact that the third story is reduced, and actually the length of the house in back is not as some of the other constructions, you know, up to the absolute minimum of the rear yard setback. But it's still a big house, and it would have been ideal if the owner, the architect, would have discussed that design with the next door neighbors, because there is an issue of problems with the windows on the house that is next door neighbor on the north side, which means the proposed construction is going to completely take away all the light in that house, and reducing this the length of the house by mere 4 feet would make a huge difference for the neighbor. So that kind of a sensitivity to design, to discuss it when the house is really, you know, making a huge difference to next door neighbors, is something that would have been great if it could have happened. So I guess my suggestion would be, is it possible to, I don't know, to extend that, give more time for discussion of the project, and that's my only comment. In other words, the GFA of 0.8 is a little bit too much. And with regards to the conditions, because 80% is different on a different lot, right? And in this particular situation, I described why it is offensive, and it could have been not offensive if it was on the corner lot. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker, panel members? Seeing none? Thank you. Mr. Zabzuni, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, before I go to you addressing the issues raised, are you aware of the conditions that transportation wants? So they want the, the curb cut restored and a new site plan with the parking removed, and that you would have to apply separately for parking with the city. Okay,
Yes,
so
we actually worked, okay.
you're aware of that then?
Yes, we worked with transportation previously, so yes.
Okay, so if you can just address the issues that were raised regarding the opaque window, the deck, the depth, the privacy screening on the third floor deck, as well as light loss.
Yes, absolutely. So again, we've taken everything into consideration and working with existing site conditions. That's one of the reasons we had reduced building height further, also based on planning recommendations. The third floor is set back from the front and rear portion. So the third floor is smaller to reduce further impact, and that's evident on our photorealistic rendering as well, just to showcase that. And it's mostly hidden within a roof design, the third floor, so that even in terms of street massing, it looks more like a two-story building rather than three-story, although there are fairly plenty of three-story buildings in the area nonetheless. All of these efforts were made just to reduce massing and impact as much as possible. You know, this is a narrow lot, so there's not a lot of room to work with in terms of setbacks, length, height, and gross floor area. This does affect the GFA, the FSI variance, number 2, which, you know, it's well within many existing builds and approvals in the area. And we worked on planning with this as well, so we feel that it fits the neighborhood and it's minor in nature. The owners have lived there for years. Again, they've spent a lot of time working on this, working with the city and speaking with neighbors. They've been very transparent. They're a young couple with a baby on the way. They need the space. They're trying to make it work with working at home conditions. And, you know, they need room for their upcoming bigger family and kids. We also already have privacy screens on both decks at the back. I think that should provide a lot of sufficient privacy. We worked with planning on that as well. I don't know if it's necessary to raise it even further. It's quite high, and I think you know, it works. Planning is satisfied with it. In terms of the building height on the old bylaw, 10.83 meters, this is just due to how it's measured from the back, but that's just due to existing conditions. The new bylaw where we're asking for 0.94 meters additional to the maximum 9 meters. Again, as stated previously, we have modest heights. This is measured to the top of the 3rd floor, which, you know, we're trying to hide it within the roofscape. And the established grade is lower than the finished grade there. Overall, you know, we've done our best to work with planning. We work with transportation as well. We have met those conditions previously, and we resubmitted to what you see today. And I think the application is modest overall. You know, it's necessary for what the homeowners are needing the space for. So we hope that you see that, and we ask for your approval. Thank you.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions? Seeing none? Okay, let's take it into committee for a decision then. Any comments? Mr. Bayat?
Madam Chair, through you, I've listened to the concerns that have been raised by people in opposition, and also listened to the agent. This is an area that is evolving quite rapidly, and having a look at the home itself, it definitely is very small. It's part of the changing landscape of that neighborhood, in fact, in the city as a whole. I do not see any objections from planning or any other city department. The only condition is, of course, transportation raised the issue of the curb cut. Beyond that, I don't see any concerns. I'd be quite happy to approve this application, as I see it as a positive change.
Okay, is that a motion then?
If my colleagues have no other concerns, I would move that as a motion, yes.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including the right-of-way management conditions in the email dated March 8th. And Mr. Nipfel, are you seconding?
I was going to make a suggestion, and then I'm prepared to second.
Yep.
Would you be open to a condition that ties construction to the plans? It seems to me that such a condition would address the concern about building heights, as the applicant had indicated. The building height, the higher building heights are only at the rear of the building. The plans that have been submitted show that, and it might give some comfort to the adjacent owner. And also the other person that was talking about the screens, the applicant's quite correct. There are screens shown on the drawings, and they're, if I'm not mistaken, 1.5 meters or so in height, which is the standard that we normally suggest. So I think that the drawings that have been submitted support both of the issues that the concerned citizens had brought to our attention, and I would recommend that those building in conformance with the plans be a condition of approval if Mr. Zayed agrees with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the motion then.
I'm happy to second it with that.
Okay, so the motion then is to approve the application with the condition that it be tied to the plans submitted, and that would be the updated plans, right? And that we have?
Yes.
Okay, and the condition from right-of-way management in the March 8th email, and that would be moved by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, the application's been approved with those conditions. Okay, we can have Mr. Clay back. I'm not sure. Do you call him or something? Or? Oh, there he is. Okay, I guess he was watching it on his screen. Okay, the next item, item number 5. 280 Earl's Court Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent. Engineering is asking for a condition, correspondence in support from 282, which is adjacent. And do I have the agent on the line?
Hi, Michael, you're unmuted. Can Can you hear us?
Mr. Bateman, are you there?
Yeah.
Great. Can you state your name for the record? You're kind of cutting in and out. I'm not really sure what's happening. Are you far from your mic or?
Can you hear?
Not really.
Hi, Michael. Try coming closer to your mic or speaking up.
Can you hear me now? Yes,
Sort of.
I'll try to speak up.
Okay. Panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any questions for the agent? No questions? Okay, Mr. Bateman, the panel members, we've read all the materials submitted, including your covering letter. We don't have any questions and we don't need a presentation. Is there anything that you want to add that wasn't in the materials before we go into committee?
No, nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Perhaps you can put the engineering report up just while we're in committee. So panel members, let's go into committee for a decision. Mr. Reed.
I'm happy to move approval of this application. I think it's rare that we see this variance being requested where the laneway house is bigger than the parent house. But I think that works okay in this situation with the location of the house on the lot, and this being on the corner. And I think the variances are minor, that the 6.9 versus the 7.5 meter separation, I think that does provide sufficient separation. So I can see no real negative impacts from approving these variances. I think they're minor, and I move approval subject to the development engineering conditions of March 4th.
Is that a second, Mr. Clay? Alrighty, so motion to approve, including the engineering conditions, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 6, 1 BRAEMAR Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and email correspondence from planning, and they have no concerns. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
And you, I need your name for the record.
My name is Stavros Theodorokopoulos, engineer and agent for the owners.
Okay, I have, oh, hold on, I'm on the wrong page. Okay. Alrighty, I don't show any speakers. Panel members, do you need a presentation? No? Do you have any questions for the agent? No questions? Okay, Mr.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
A little slow off the mark here. Just want to ask the agent the height. It is 1 meter over what's allowed, but I just want a sense from him whether that would be sort of character with others in that neighborhood.
Well, we have several 3-story houses right behind us facing Avenue Road. I think there's an entire row of them, and then there's 3-story apartment buildings and a new 3-story row house on Chaplin, which is just around the corner. And we've kept the front of the houses maintaining the roof as it is. So the addition is partway back from the front. And we've sloped the roof slightly on one side to accommodate our neighbor who has solar panels on his roof. And the owner has spoken to the neighbors, and there's no concerns with our proposal.
Any further questions?
No, that's great. Thank you.
No more questions? Okay, Mr. Theodorakopoulos, We don't have any more questions. Is there anything you want to add that wasn't in the submissions that we've all read?
No, I think that's fine, thank you.
All right, let's take it into committee for a decision then, panel members.
Oh, sorry, Peter, you go ahead?
Go ahead, Larry, that's fine.
I'm quite satisfied with this application. I too noticed that all the massings at the back, and I was wondering about that unusual slope to one side, and that was an interesting and quite a commendable change to make to accommodate the next door neighbor's solar panels. So I don't think that is out of character with the type of redevelopment that's happening in this neighborhood. I think it's a good design. I don't see any major impact on the surrounding neighbors and community, so I would move approval of this application with no conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed? Okay, so motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 7, 974 Victoria Park Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have correspondence from transportation, and they don't have any concerns. Opposition from 976 Victoria Park. And we have a 42 signature petition from residents on Victoria Park, Brenton Street, Mahan Avenue, Halsey Avenue, and Mustern Avenue. We received late correspondence late yesterday from the agent requesting deferral of the application, as well as a 3-signature petition in support. I am showing 3 speakers listed. Is the agent on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair and Committee.
Just need your name for the record, please.
Mohammed Al Sayed.
So I understand you're looking for a deferral. What's the reason?
Yes, basically the reason we have hired a new consultant to work with us on variances earlier this month, and to ensure the compliance with the zoning bylaws, and we need a little bit more time to work on that.
Is your intention to speak to any of the objectors during this time if a deferral is granted?
Oh, well, yeah, if the deferral is granted, then we wanted to address some of their concerns and during our review with the new consultant. So I prefer maybe if we push that for the new hearing date. So maybe we can answer some of the questions in there.
Okay. All right. Do you have all 3 of these people? Okay. I'm just gonna go to the to speakers before we go into committee. Ms. Espiritu, are you there?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. Can you state your name for the record, please, and your address?
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Espiritu, and I live at number 35 Brenton Street.
Okay, hang on a second, I'm sorry. We're actually not hearing the application right now. The committee is going to make a decision on a deferral. The applicant has requested that this matter be deferred to another date because they have a different consultant and they want to review all the variances. And should the committee grant a deferral, we would also ask that the applicant consult with people like yourself who are opposed to the application. So just your thoughts on a deferral.
Okay.
So you're okay with,
I'm just gonna let the panel knows that 42 signatures of the community are not wanting this building to be built because mostly are senior citizens, and I don't think they need a 3-story in this area.
Okay, understood, but we're not hearing the issues right now. I just want to know where you stand on a deferral.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We can set it for another day.
And yeah, and then the application would be recirculated to the neighborhood, and we have your information, so you would be notified of the new date.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Do I have Charles and Susan Alksnis on the line?
Here.
Hi, same question about the deferral. I just need you to identify yourself for the record.
Charles Alston, 34 Brighton Street.
So, yeah, you've heard the applicant's looking for a deferral. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, they wanted to let me know a new date and direct objections to that meeting.
Yeah, we will, but, you know, hopefully the applicant will consult with those of you who are, you know, in the neighborhood, in particular, those of you who have listed to speak today. All right, thank you. Ms. Young?
Hi, Sharon. I think you're muted on your end. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving Sharon a call.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, just bear with us. We've lost the final speaker.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Ms. Young?
Yes, I actually was speaking, trying to speak. I'm not sure of my audio, my apologies. But yes, I'm Sharon Young at 9578 Victoria Park Avenue. I'm in agreement with the deferral.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so panel members, let's take it into committee for a vote on the deferral. Mr. Nipfel. Carl, you're muted, I think.
Pardon me. Proceeding at this stage with so much unresolved and opposition, I don't think is beneficial. I think that if the time is spent negotiating with the objectors and also bringing the new consultant up to speed so that the application is more complete, that's a good use of time. Therefore, Madam Chairman, I have no trouble at all in moving the deferral.
Okay, and that's Mr. Bayat. And I would just add that I'd like it noted that the applicant is to undertake speaking to the neighbors if, in fact, the deferral is granted, and when he comes back, that the committee can see that consultation did take place. Okay, so the motion moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Okay, the application has been deferred for maximum of 3 months, is it? Or how do you want the deferral?
Through you, Madam Chair, it would just be when the applicant is ready, then it's the first available hearing.
Yes. So first available date. Okay. All right, item number 8. 131 BOULTBEE Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. A covering letter from the agent, an arborist report from Thomas Watson Consulting, a tree preservation plan from Contempo Studio, correspondence in support, and that includes both adjacent properties at 129 and 133, and opposition from 114 BOULTBEE, and based on what I read, it's regarding the protection of a maple tree in front of this property. Okay, and I don't have any speakers listed. Do I have the agent on the line?
Good morning again, Madam Chair and committee members. Marin Zebzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, welcome back. Panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do any of you have any questions? Mr. Nipfel?
Madam Chairman, if you refer to the plans, the third floor plan, I was wondering if, hold on a second, I'll get you the number. It's number A12. There is no screening shown on this rather substantial deck, and I wanted to ask the applicant if you're proposing screening on the two sides of that deck to protect the owners on either side, or is there some other measure you're taking for privacy?
Yes, let me go to that, to the side elevation, just to check. One moment. So if you're talking about the rear third floor balcony, I believe the clients have spoken to both adjacent neighbors and they didn't have any concern with that. That's the reason that we typically do propose privacy screens in these conditions, but I believe the homeowners are pretty friendly with both neighbors. I think that's the reason we didn't hear. I'm not sure if you require it as a condition or not. I'll leave that up to you, but that's the reason why we are not proposing it here.
I think there's merit in putting it on both sides. That would be a standard condition in a situation like this, and I'd hate to have this one come back and bite us as a precedent. Because if you put a deck of that size on the third floor, normally there's a privacy issue. So if you don't object, I personally would be in favor of a 1.5 meter privacy screen just on the sides, because those are the most impacted properties.
Fair enough. I have no objection to that, so that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Clay?
Chair, can I just ask about the tree in the front? One of the folks who wrote in expressed some concern. It is a Norway maple, and we know that the city is removing Norway maples pretty much across the city because they're meeting the end of their natural life. But I was surprised to see you're planning to remove it, I think, from the plan, but I was surprised to see that there wasn't anything from urban forestry providing some guidance around that process. Maybe, could you just speak to that, please?
Yes, we did get an arborist report on this. The tree actually has been a big concern throughout this application, and I believe it's causing some damage, the roots, to the existing foundation. It's also, they're concerned as a hazard or fire escape or so. It is a narrow lot, it's quite close, and I think branches has also fallen on the property before. So they spoke with neighbors about it. We did provide an arborist report, and I think it seems everyone is in favor to remove this tree. We will, of course, work with urban forestry as needed, but that's essentially the stance from the homeowners' request.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm looking at the photo of the house. It looks like it's on city property, so again, it just surprises me that there isn't something from urban forestry on this. But if there isn't, and you're planning to, I mean, you can't take that tree down, I don't think, without getting their approval. So
correct.
Okay. Can I just make that as a condition then? Just a
Hang on, one second, Mr. Clay. Okay. Mr. Clay, that came in really late. That's on the screen from forestry.
Oh, I checked. I couldn't.
No,
see
we don't have it because I didn't see anything from forestry either.
Okay, fair enough. So they just simply have to apply and get forestry's approval for removing that tree, which is what we expected.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions, panel members? Seeing none? All right, let's take it into committee for a decision then. Mr. Reed.
Thanks, Chair. I had no significant concerns with the building itself. My main concern was the tree, and I think removing it would be a short-sighted route to take. So I'm really hopeful that urban forestry gives a lot of thought to that, as I'm sure they will. But the application itself and the variances being sought, I think, are minor, and I think that it fits in with the pattern of redevelopment in the area, and doesn't pose a significant negative impact. So I would move approval of this, subject to, as Carl mentioned, inserting privacy screening on the sides of the decks, and subject to urban forestry condition in the August 18th letter.
Okay, with those conditions, Mr. Reed moves approval, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, the application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Item number 975 Dovercourt Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations. We have email correspondence from the applicant as well as a covering letter. We have email correspondence from planning. Actually, a couple of correspondence pieces. We have planning has given us a report. They're asking for refusal of variances 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13, I believe. Engineering has conditions in their March 31st report. And we had opposition from 973 Dovercourt. We got in our supplementary agenda late last night correspondence from the owner addressed to the neighbors. Again from the owner responding to community planning's report. Correspondence again from the owner responding to the neighbors' opposition letters. We have decisions, previous decisions of properties at 973, 984, and 982 Dovercourt, as well as correspondence in opposition again from 973. And I do show a speaker listed here. 2 speakers? Yeah, Connie was added, but the owner, yeah, I only have 1 speaker. Okay, do I have the agent on the line? Mr. Gorn? You there, Mr. Gornick?
I am, but my partner Mark will be presenting today, so he's also listed on your
Yep,
participants
I
list.
have him, so we'll get him on the line then. Thanks.
Hi, Mark, you're unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, can you just state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, it's Mark Olenek. I'm one of the owners of 975 Dovercourt.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to go to the speaker to find out if they're speaking in opposition or not. Ms. Souza?
Hi.
Hi, are you speaking in opposition?
Kind of, yes.
Okay. Do you need a presentation on this application then, before you speak?
Yeah, because it looks like there's been a few changes since the application was done, so I just want a little bit of clearance before going into details.
Alrighty, we'll ask Mr. Oleniak to give us a presentation then, okay? And then I'll come back to you. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, Mr. Oleniak, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So the proposal that we've submitted is to reconfigure the existing property at 975 Dovercourt with the addition of a 3rd floor as well, and also an additional floor above the existing garage unit, which would be used as a laneway suite. Obviously, it's our opinion that there are significant need for additional housing in the area, as outlined in the city's expanding housing options initiative. We acknowledge that there's been a memo submitted by the assistant planner regarding the laneway unit in the CR zone, where we provided several justifications in support of our application in our letter of response that I believe was yesterday. Additionally, we feel that many of the requested variances to be considered minor. Several are related to existing conditions, which there's no intention of modifying. The proposed FSI, which is slightly above the current FSI policy of the property right now, fits within the area, and as well there are several decisions related to increased FSI that are actually above what we're requesting at the moment. The other alternative use cases regarding the laneway unit, there are several examples in the area, one which I believe was had on screen of 967 Dovercourt, which does have a detached unit above the garage at the back of the property. So there are supporting alternative uses in the CR zone existing already, and as outlined by one of our letters, development engineering did support the way that the property was configured from a fire safety and access standpoint. So yeah, I believe there's essentially 4 categories of variances that we're requesting. Number 1 being the existing conditions, which I've already mentioned. Number 2, the increased FSI. Number 3 and 4 related to the detached laneway suite at the back of the property. And again, recognizing that there's been a report from planning, we feel that this meets, the criteria set out in the area, and there are supporting cases in the area as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Souza.
Hello?
Hi. Can you?
Hi.
Hi. I need your name and address for the record.
Yeah. Connie Souza, and I'm actually speaking on behalf of my parents, Jose Souza and Maria Souza, the owners of 977 Dovercourt Road.
Okay. Alrighty, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Okay, well, there's a few issues. I'll start off with the privacy and natural light. Like, the higher you go, the less privacy you're giving to the current owners of 977. They are elders. Their English is not their first language, and my father is also a cancer patient, and he needs certain things certain ways. He's not up for any kind of headaches, just for the get-go kind of thing. So if he's going to be having more neighbors moving in, and they're going to be irresponsible, that's going to be an issue. And if the building is going higher, that means there's going to be a lot more people living in the residence, which was up until now always a residential, like a family residential house. Although it states that it's commercial, only the front room of that house was commercial, and that was quite a few years ago. They stopped allowing any kind of commercial use there because there was a lot of break-ins into the businesses. The other thing too we noticed is there's no kind of fire escape or fire route or any kind of access for the fire department to even get to the back of the dwelling or even to the laneway suite. Even though I noticed that there's a picture that was provided for a house located on Hallam, that house, they're putting in a laneway suite, their laneway suite is completely away from other places. 975's laneway suite is actually adjacent to another garage and also very close to my father's garage, and there's also a little bit of question as to how would you get any kind of fire truck into a dead-end laneway, which there's no space for even a fire truck to get into in the first place. And then the other thing as well, if you're going to be extending the residential, like the current residential house, if you're going to be extending it upwards, I noticed that there's some sort of rooftop. What is that rooftop being used for? Because that is way too far up. It doesn't show any kind of security, I guess you can say, of things flying off and ending up in my parents' backyard and possibly injuring them. And then lastly, there's also the whole parking and traffic issue. There's already quite a few number of cars being parked on the road. Having a multi-use unit being put in, you're looking at a minimum of at least 4 cars for that unit now. And Enterprise, which is just down the street, takes up all the parking spots. So, like, how are you guys going to manage that as well?
Okay. Anything else?
And that's most of what's on their mind.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Souza. Mr. Oleniak?
Yes, happy to address
Yeah, thanks.
the concerns. Just related to fire access, as you can see from one of the plans that was submitted, fire access would actually be from the front, and there's ample room between the 2 properties on the south side for firefighters to get to the rear unit. Related to the rooftop, we have included privacy screens and in addition to that, there's a 1500 millimeter wall height that would be there for any security or safety issues from the rooftop. And the main intention of the rooftop is to provide additional green space in the area. Parking, we have still included for 1 parking space. There are many applications in the area that were approved with a 0 parking space variance. So we are maintaining 1 parking space there. And I believe that was all, or was there anything that I missed?
By overlook from the top, I think, was one of the things, privacy issues.
Yeah, and I guess that would be addressed by the privacy screens.
Okay. All right, panel members, do you have any questions? Mr. Clay?
Yeah, so this is yet again another kind of an unusual configuration lot, looking to put a laneway suite. Well, it's not actually a lane. I guess it doesn't actually qualify for configuration as a laneway suite. It looks like from the location map that the current garage the laneway there dead ends into the current garage. And I guess what I'm interested in, normally laneway suites are required to have a certain frontage on the laneway. And it looks like the frontage on the dead end of the laneway here is not very wide. Is that, if you were to look at laneway suite requirements, would that be an issue with respect to how we would normally deal with a laneway suite? Is the fact that it doesn't have enough frontage on the laneway?
So I believe that the required frontage is 3.5 meters, which we do in fact have in this case.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Mr. Bayat?
I was just going to ask the agent, you're aware of the planning staff report that recommends a refusal of the variances 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13?
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
Yeah, again, I believe that the main objection there is that what we were requesting is a laneway suite in a CR zoned area, which is in contradiction of the current zoning bylaw. However, again, we feel that there's other alternative uses in the CR zone in the area, including the laneway suite that's present on 967 Dover.
But I do note that it's only variance in number 9 that addresses the issue of CR zone. Pardon me, the other variances are not directly related to the zoning. It's related to orientation, rear setback, yard setback, building orientation and location of detached dwelling.
Yeah, so, variance, let me just go through them here for you. So yeah, variance 8 is related to existing conditions. Again, we're not moving the existing garage at all. It's been there for years, and that would be related to that one. 9 is the CR zoning one that you mentioned. And 10 is, yes, it is abutting a residential zone. However, if you see the photo that was provided in the latest letter, there's in fact no area for a fence to be constructed between the two properties. Should that garage ever be demolished or moved, we would gladly put a fence up. And 11, oh, sorry, 10, was that the last one you said?
It was 11, 12, and 13.
So 11 is related to the detached dwelling again. I mean, it is in the rear of the property, so it doesn't front onto the street, which is what I guess they're referring to there. And building 12, building an addition which is not above the ground. Again, what we're requesting for is leniency based on the fact that this meets a lot of the criteria of a laneway suite. And again, we feel that there's precedent in the area.
Okay,
Thank you.
any further questions? No? All right, let's take it into committee.
Oh, I've got one. I've
Yeah?
got one.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chairman, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
To the applicant, you mentioned in response to one of the speakers that you were, the lady next door, if I remember correctly, that you provided screening around the rooftop deck. Could you refer to drawing A300? Can you tell me where the screening is and how high it is? Because I don't actually see it on your drawings.
Sure, let me just pull it up here.
It appears from my reading of the drawings that you really only need it on the rear end of that deck and possibly, turning it around on the two sides, but it doesn't appear that you need it all the way around. So I'm confused by what you're proposing.
Yeah, so basically where the storage bench is shown, we would include screening above that as well, to ensure that, there's no safety issues between the neighbors.
So that would be the northeast corner of the rooftop deck, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any more questions? Seeing none, let's take it into committee for a decision then.
I'll just start with maybe an observation from my perspective. I was trying to get at whether if this wasn't in a CR zone, whether the laneway suite would in fact be something that we would support. And with the confirmation about frontage and some of the other things, and looking at the design, it's not looking for, it's an existing garage, it's not looking for additional height, it's not looking for additional width or length. It does have access to, an appropriate access to the laneway, including utilities and fire. I don't think I have a problem with the main structure amendments either. I think this is a quirk in my view, and that it happens to be in a CR zone, but the CR zone has lots of residential in it already. It's a interesting little four-corner commercial area, wonderful, but I don't think that, in my view, the introduction of a laneway suite in this location would dramatically impact on either the neighbors. I appreciate the concerns of the next door neighbor, but I don't think it's going to be a dramatic impact. And I thought the design was well done, and I think it would be a contribution to the neighborhood. So from my perspective, I think this is a supportable application. I'll defer to my colleagues in terms of their views as well.
Mr. Reed?
Sure, I agree, Larry, with what you're saying. I think that this is not your typical CR zone. I think it's really not Main Street commercial. It's not high rise. It's really more neighborhood stuff that has a mix of residential and commercial. So I actually think that this laneway suite fits in extremely well on the site.
Any further comments?
So
Yeah, anyone else have a comment or, no? Oh, Mr. Bayat?
Agree.
Just my only comment, and I see the importance of change in general. It's a laneway suite, and the objections that planning department has raised. My gut sense always suggests that I would defer to some degree to the colleagues at City Hall. So I'd be inclined to agree with planning department's request that we refuse those specific variances that they've identified. Outside of that, I would be supportive of the variance, all the other variances except those related to the laneway suite, because it's not really a laneway suite at this stage.
Mr. Nipfel?
I guess it's appropriate to weigh in. I'm agreeing with both Larry and Peter on this one. I think this is a bit of an anomaly, and notwithstanding Zari's comment about respecting the advice we're getting from the planning department, I think in this case, I don't see the negative downside to this laneway suite, and I'd be prepared to support it, subject to the standard development engineering conditions. And I do believe the lady next door made a valid point about privacy from the rooftop deck, and subject to a condition about screening the deck, I'm very much in support of the application.
It sounded like a motion, girl.
Okay, I'd like to bring forward a motion of approval of the application subject to the standard development engineering conditions, and a condition that requires a 1.5 meters privacy screen to be located at the northeast corner of the third floor rooftop deck.
Okay, Mr. Clay, you're seconding. So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Clay, including the engineering conditions in the 31st of March report, and the screening on the third floor northeast corner to 1.5 meters. All in favor? Okay, the application's been approved. Okay, let's move to number 10, and then after this one, I think we should take a 5-minute break just to stretch our legs, okay? So, item number 10 is...
Madam Chair,
yeah.
If I may, just the previous application, I just wish to be noted that I declined.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw your hand up. Okay.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 10, 53 Ontario Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a couple of covering letters from Ms. Kovar, a covering letter from Sandra Markey. We have a parking study, more correspondence from Sandra Markey. We have bylaws from the OMB before us pertaining to this application, and we have email correspondence from community planning, and they don't have any concerns about this application. And in our supplemental, again received very late yesterday, we have opposition from 6021 Yonge Street, Suite 100. And I don't have any speakers showing other than the agent.
Through you, Madam Chair, there is one other submission that was received this morning. It's from the St. Lawrence Neighborhood Association's Development Committee. They are opposed to the increase in height, and they do not find that this is minor.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do I have the agent on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good morning, Madam Chair. It's Eileen Costello, Costello, from Aird Burles. I'm here on behalf of Bell East Corp, which is the owner of the property at 53 Ontario Street.
Just let me see. I'm not sure we need a full
Sure.
presentation or not. Panel members, do you need a full presentation? I see shaking your heads. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any questions, panel members? Mr. Nipfel?
We had on a previous hearing, I think last week, we had something very similar to this, and the parking study was very detailed and recommended mitigating approaches to deal with each of the undersized parking spaces. Things such as painting protruding pieces of the structure, wrapping pipes that might get banged, and so forth. And there was also a condition that the deficient size be noted in all the sales agreements. I'm wondering if I've read your study, but there are no mitigating measures identified. I'm wondering if there are any. And secondly, and it may be, this might not be possible anyway, I gather that many of the units have already been sold, but were the deficiencies noted in the sales documents?
Thank you, Mr. Nutfeld, and through you, Madam Chair. What I can advise is that the building is almost fully occupied at this moment in time. I was not privy to the condominium documentation, and so I don't have an answer for you with respect to what was included in that material. I can certainly take away the suggestion that Lee look at additional mitigation measures in the parking garage. Certainly striping and signs are quite common once parking garage signage is installed, things that say small car only. Because this is not a commercial parking lot, but for owners of the condominium, there's less need to educate folks once they've used the parking spot on a regular basis. But I understand the recommendation, and I'm happy to take that back.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Seeing none? Okay, Ms. Costello, we've read the materials and we're ready to go into committee. Is there anything that you feel you need to add before we do so that wasn't in the submissions?
Ma'am, I would simply note, I was not aware of the submission from the St. Lawrence Neighborhood Association. I did see the objection, the one objection email, which was on the file as of last evening. I'd simply observe, as I think is clear from the submission materials, that this is an existing condition, so it isn't an increase in height or additional stories. It's a change in how the zoning examiner was understanding and giving us an opinion with respect to that level of stories. There was a concern that I think folks thought we were adding stories to the building, and of course that's not what's happening. But I want to just say that publicly, since there was a concern.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take it into committee, panel members, for a decision. Mr. Bayat, did you want to start? It looked like you were about to start.
I'll step forward on this one. Madam Chair, I do not see any real issues with this particular application. And I think this last explanation that the agent just presented, that it's not an increase in the height of the building. I am always concerned about the fact that our city is becoming a haven of 60-story structures. This definitely is not, and the fact that it's quite setback. It's an interesting use. So I'd be quite happy to look forward to the motion to approve if my colleagues don't have any objection or any other considerations or thoughts.
Okay, is that a seconder, Mr. Nipfel?
I was going to ask Mr. Zari, would you be open to, similar to what we did before, to having the notes of the meeting indicate that the applicant undertook to investigate further mitigation measures? I think that's useful.
Absolutely, that would be perfectly good. Sound.
So are you?
I'm happy to second on that basis. Yeah.
Alrighty, so we have a motion to approve, moved by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Mr. Nipfel, and ask that in the notes it be marked that that the applicant will undertake additional mitigation measures to ensure the undersized parking lots they can be seen, that they're marked. Alrighty, so all in favor? Application's been unanimously approved. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, so we'll be back at 11:35. Okay. Panel members, are you there? myself. Larry and Carl, are you guys there? Panel members, are you there? Okay, Carl and Larry, you ready to go? I'm gonna just read. The next item is item number 11. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have correspondence from transportation as well as ravine and natural forest protection. I don't see any concerns. And that's everything, and I don't believe we have any speakers. Do I have the owner on the line?
Yes.
Good morning. Can you
Good
state?
morning,
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes. Good morning, respected member of the committee. My name is Pema Siring. I live at 392 Caledonia Road, and I'm the owner of this house.
All right. Panel members, do you need a presentation? No. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr. Tsiring, we've read all the materials. We don't need a presentation. We have no questions. Is there anything you feel you need to add before we take it into committee for a decision?
Nothing at all. Thank you very much for the time, and I am very grateful for the time for you giving us today. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's take it into committee, panel members. Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, I think this is a very straightforward application. In many locations it would be out of place, but I don't think it is in this particular location. And what is being proposed mimics what happens on the adjacent property. On that basis, I think the variance requests are reasonable and clearly meet the 4 tests, and I move approval without condition.
Okay, Mr. Bayat, you want to second that? Okay, so
Yes.
motion to approve, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Okay, item number 12, 6 Nassau Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from Mr. Guter, the agent, as well as a transportation consultant report. We have email correspondence from right-of-way management as well as Heritage, and they have no concerns. We have a letter from the local councillor refusing, asking for refusal. We have correspondence in opposition from 8 Nassau Street, which is adjacent, as well as Friends of Kensington Market, 13 and 29 Oxford Street, as well as 193 Augusta. We have 36 form letters in opposition from residents on Augusta, Nassau Street, Denison Square, Wales Avenue, Bellevue Avenue, and Oxford Square. We have another 21 signature petition signed by owners and occupants of 21 Nassau, residents on Baldwin and Palmerston Street. I show 2 speakers in opposition, and I believe I saw a deferral request from the agent. So is the agent on the line?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. It's Ryan Guter from Weston Consulting.
Okay, can you just confirm that you're asking for a deferral, and if that's the case, why?
The deferral request is in order to allow sufficient time for some further engagement with those that have issued objection letters. We had historically met with area residents and more recently did so with the benefit of understanding some of their concerns, but we simply have not had enough time to respond appropriately to their concerns in a meaningful manner, and we would like the time to do so. So the request, which we've provided a copy to the residents as well, which I understand at least some of them are aware of our request for deferral, in part to engage with them further in the hopes of bringing something back in the fullness of time with their benefit of review. So we would ask for the committee's support for the deferral, and any speakers obviously that I am not connected with, we'd certainly be keen to connect and engage with them, as well as others that we've already been in touch with. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to speak to it further if there's any questions.
No, so just so the committee's clear that you would be open to potential revisions to the application, you know, to address concerns.
Yeah, our desire would be to continue discussions that have been undertaken and ultimately bring back the application, having resolved those, and that of course would potentially mean changes to the sought variances. So we're certainly keen to engage further, and we've spent a lot of time with staff and a lot of time with area residents, but clearly not enough time in the recent weeks to address their concerns, but we're committed to do that.
Okay, before I take it into committee to make a decision on the deferral, I'm just going to go to the two speakers that we have. Mr. Reid, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair, I am here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Committee members, panel members, I would support Ryan Gooder's request for a deferral. He has in fact reached out to us for possible meetings in early September. I represent Kensington Residents Association and Friends of Kensington Market, so we are in support of the request for deferral. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Watson? Hello? Cal?
Hello?
Hi, okay, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Alrighty. So the applicant's asking for a deferral, which is what the committee's dealing with now. They want to do further consultation and potentially revise the application. Are you in support of a deferral?
I am. I haven't been engaged by the applicant, but I'd love to hear from them if they're interested.
All right, can you just state your... Yeah, I just need you to state your name and address for the record, and that way the applicant will also have it to reach out.
Cal Watson, 29 Oxford Street.
Alrighty. So, so you're in support, so great. Mr. Gooder, we're going to take it into committee then for a decision on the deferral. Panel members. Mr. Reid.
I think it's clear that deferral would benefit this project. It's a very interesting site, I think, that has the potential to really have something great on it. So I think this pause will help the applicant fine-tune some of the details. So I move deferral with the condition that the applicant reach out to the community and get their input.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Bayat. So a motion to defer, moved by Mr. Reid, seconded by Mr. Bayat, with the condition that community consultation take place. Okay, all in favor? Okay, the deferral has been granted. Thank you, everyone. Item number 13, 5, Indian Valley Road, or Crescent, rather. We have before us copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, previous committee decision affecting the property, amendment request and amendment request plans submitted by the owner. We have email correspondence from community planning and engineering and ravine and natural forestry, urban forestry protection, and none of them have any conditions except for RNFP. They need a permit. And we have support from number 18, Indian Grove, objection from number 3, Indian Valley Crescent. Again, late submissions received late yesterday. We have correspondence from the applicant explaining variance number 5, correspondence in support from 423 and 425 Parkside Drive. We have correspondence in opposition, 2 pieces from 11 Indian Valley. Do I have the applicant, or well, yeah, do I have the agent on the line?
On the line, I'm the owner, Chris Redgard.
Okay, sir, we have 1 speaker in opposition. Do we have we have 2. Okay, so we'll need you to do a presentation then, no more than 5 minutes, and I'm going to start the clock now.
Okay, I wanted to thank the committee very much for reviewing the application. I've been a 20-year resident of the Hyde Park area, first at Jeffrey Street, then 50 Hyde Park Boulevard. My spouse and I purchased 5 Indian Valley Crescent in 2013, and over these years, we've noticed how the neighborhood's gentrified a little bit and become more diverse, more multicultural. We've had 2 children during that time, and we decided to renovate the home to repair some things as well as make it larger for a growing family. The variance in question, variance number 1, refers to a existing deck that's 2.76 meters high. This deck already exists on the property. We will be pushing it back a little bit, which we gain access to from the ground floor. Like I said, removing the existing carport that is underneath it to add on the rear addition. The site is sloped, and the deck extends from the level of the ground floor. The permitted height is 1.2 meters. As I said, the existing deck is 2.76, and the neighboring property at 5 Indian Valley Crescent also has a deck of the almost the same height. Planning rationale for recent committee adjustment decisions within 400 meters. In variance 2, the permitted maximum height of a structure is 10 meters. The proposed height of our altered house is 10.8 meters. We also believe this is a minor variance to the established maximum height of the immediately adjacent buildings at 3 Indian Valley Crescent, which has a maximum height of 11.24, and as proposed, the building is shorter than the adjacent building height. The proposed height should be considered within character of the neighborhood and the existing buildings. Of the 28 neighborhood residences, 22 of them have heights that are greater than 10.8 meters. Of the 6, of the remaining 6 residents are below 10.8, but 4 of them have building heights of 10.3, which is also above the stated allowance. In addition, the building form of the proposed renovation has been stepped back on the front elevation and rear elevation so that when viewed from the street, the building appears to be significantly shorter than the 10.8 maximum building height. The next chart on the submission, if you look at supporting information submitted on August 20th, on page 2, we'll get to that. So I think it's called planning rationale. But there's a chart showing all the buildings within our catchment or close to our neighborhood. And you can see that several of them, if not most of them, are higher than 10.8, some exceeding 11.85 or 12. Regarding variance 3, maximum height of specified pairs of main walls, this variance is similar to variance 2. The adjacent building to our east, 3 Indian Valley Crescent, has sidewalls at a maximum height of 11.24. 28 residences, again, 22 of them have sidewalls greater than the proposed height of 10.8 meters. Variance 4 refers to the floor space index. Permitted maximum floor space index is 0.6 times the area of our lot, which is 261.1 square meters. The proposed floor space index is 0.8 times the area of 350 square meters. We also believe this is a minor variance, as many residents in the neighborhood have floor space indexes higher than proposed 0.8. The existing FSI is 0.74. Community adjustment to students in the neighborhood within 400 meters range from 0.82 to 1.05. Variance 5, which we removed and added back because we were just want to make sure that the committee viewed it as just adding on the existing or modifying the existing carport. The permitted maximum depth for detached house is 17 meters. The proposed building depth is 23.4. We believe this is a minor variance as the building depth is only the building depth is only the large 23.4 dimension when it is included, when the carport is included to the rear of the house on the lower level down the hill. This building depth on the lower level does not impede any of the lot setbacks or the light and ventilation available to go through, so to go into their residences and living spaces. The previous committee of adjustment decision.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're over 5 minutes, so I need you to wrap up.
Sure, I'm just almost done anyways. So we haven't approved for it in the past, so we don't see why we wouldn't be approved for the same structures. We moved back a little bit. We removed variance 6 regarding the garage. We are no longer building garage. Lastly, the height limits for the municipality. We believe this is a minor variance as well, because again, 3 Indian Valley Crescent is located across Mutual Drive. It's the same elevation, same slope. There's this 12.54 high measured from the average elevation along the sidewalk. Proposed maximum height of this project is 12.1, which is lower.
Okay, you're at 6 minutes almost, so I'm gonna cut you off. But before I go to the opposition, just to clarify, I read that you were originally removing variances 5 and 6, and then you put 5 back in. So are you actually removing variance number 6 from this?
Exactly, that is correct.
Okay. So you're removing variance 6 for the elevation of the lowest point of the vehicle entrance in a main wall?
Yeah, for the garage. We're not doing the garage.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do I have Miss?
Chair, I wonder
Yep.
if we could, if I might just impose on the committee just to get a couple of clarifications for my mind. Variance 2 versus variance 7, both asking for height. Is one the new bylaw and one the old bylaw? Is that why we have the same variance, or am I misreading that?
I think that's correct, but staff, can you just clarify? I think 7 is the old bylaw, is it not?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. Variance number 7 is from bylaw 438-86, and variance number 2 is under 569-2013.
Well, again, you'll forgive me for belaboring this point. Under number 7, it has the building height at 12.1 meter, and under number 2, it has the building height at 10.8 meters. I get the difference in terms of what the bylaw would require, but these are 2 different measurements of the same building. I'm just struggling to understand that. Forgive me.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's dependent on the definition of height and how it's measured under both bylaws.
Okay. And secondly, I just noticed in the purpose of the application, I'm assuming from obviously reading all the material that this is a rooftop deck over the existing house, not a rooftop deck over your 1-story addition. I mean, it's just the wording's kind of a little bit vague. One could read that as being constructing a rear 1-story addition with a rooftop deck over the 1-story addition. I don't believe that's the case in this situation, but
I have a similar question. I read the purpose exactly that way, Larry. I read it initially that they were going to put a 1-story addition on the back of the house and put a deck over top of that 1-story addition, which is what the purpose says. But I was going to ask for clarification from the applicant about what the scope of work really is, because if you look at drawings number A12 and A7, those are the existing and proposed elevations. They're quite dramatically different. So there's obviously more to the application than the purpose is suggesting, unless I'm misinterpreting what I have. That's the existing condition, what's on the screen now. And if you go to the proposed condition, it's a remarkably different building. So I'm not clear on what the scope of the application is. I'm not passing judgment on it. I just want to understand what's being undertaken. If you go to A12 and A7, it's the comparison between those two. There. Now see, that's remarkably different than the existing condition.
Okay, Mr. Red,
perhaps-
Mr. Redguard,
Yes.
could you please speak to the couple of issues
Sure.
that have just been raised?
So the application put out a one-story addition with a rear deck. We submitted, we have never referred to it in that manner, but we submitted our application to the PPR and C of A were to alter the existing 2.5-story detached house by adding a rear 2-story addition, a front 2-story addition, a new 3rd-story addition, a rear 3rd-story balcony, rear 1st-story deck, and integral garage. As I've
Okay,
stated,
that makes sense. Thank you.
yeah, and that's what we submitted. The planning board put that statement out about a 1-story addition with rear deck, and we had nothing to do with that.
Then, Madam Chairman, I guess the question is, can we proceed? Because that purpose is not what we're here for. What's been advertised is not what we're here to evaluate. What the applicant just identified as his application, that fits with all of the submitted drawings, and that makes all the sense in the world. But it's a substantially larger application than the purpose is suggesting.
Am I still vocal here?
Yeah, go ahead.
You still hear me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna add, what you're suggesting is true. However, I don't think that should rest with us, and that the planning office looked at our plans according to what I just read to you. The purpose and what I discussed with the neighbors, again, is what I've just read to you. All the plans suggest that it's what I just read to you. So I just want to make that known as well.
Could you just read it again so I can write it down, please?
Sure. Our application, the PPR and community adjustment to alter the existing 2.5-story detached house by adding a rear 2-story addition, a front 2-story addition, a new 3rd-story addition, rear 3rd-story balcony, rear 1st-story deck, and integral garage. The variance we took out was the garage, and it's always been that.
So can I just ask, Chair, is that's not what actually was posted in the notice that was served to the adjacent community, or was it? Are the surrounding neighbors aware?
I'm just letting, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer is going to weigh in on what you're asking, Larry, so.
Yes,
Okay,
through you, Madam Chair, the purpose of application that was sent as part of the notification reads as follows: to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition with a rooftop deck. So it did not include
A front story.
the front 2-story,
story.
the rear 2-story, the 3rd, and so forth.
So in fairness to the people that are responding, and no criticism of the applicant, he provided the right information. I'm very uncomfortable proceeding further because that's not what we have before us, and I'm very uncomfortable making a decision on a substantially larger application when in fact what the community was told was it was going to be, it sounds like a very a small rear addition and a deck on top.
I might ask, I've just spoken to 8 neighbors in the area. None of them had the idea that it was a 1-story addition with a rear deck on top. You're seeing exactly what they've seen, the application, the drawings all referred to what we're talking about today. I don't know if I should be held responsible for something that was put out. It's essentially a title that doesn't reflect what's in the substance of the book. People have looked at the substance of the book and reflected on it. We've received criticism for it, and we've seen offers of letter support of it. Mostly
the issue could be, however, and please accept my apologies. This is in no way a criticism of you. But somebody who reads the purpose as written before us could decide that that's not a very significant thing. Look out the backyard and say, oh, so they're going to fill in the garage and it's the deck that's already there. I'm not going to object. I think the concern I have is that people that didn't respond might have responded had there been a more correct description. And I don't believe we should be proceeding with an application that doesn't have correct description. And that is I appreciate it would create difficulty for you, and it isn't a criticism of you, but I had difficulty with this application when I first started to review the agenda, and I've been back, I've read it 4 or 5 times, and I convinced myself that what you were doing is what you've just identified in your description, but that's not what it says here.
I can understand that point of view, but again, I've canvassed, as I said, 8 different neighbors, everyone that touches the property, and all those that are in view of the property.
Okay.
Had 2 objections, and had 6 others that have not objected, 2 have written letters of support, 3 verbally offered support.
Okay, I'm just going to go to my members for a minute here, Mr. Redguard.
Sure.
So, to the rest of the panel members, to Mr. Nipfel's point, what are your thoughts on that? And before you do that, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, should the committee decide this needs to be recirculated, how fast can you get it back on an agenda? Because it's a correction of the purpose only, right? And I guess the variance number 6 could be just removed, like if it is recirculated.
Through you, Madam Chair, I will work with the landowner to ensure that this application gets put on fairly quickly.
Okay. All right. So if the other panel members can weigh in then on the issue with the purpose not being representative of what's being proposed here. Mr. Bayat.
Madam Chair, I was just wondering again, question I suppose also to Secretary. Can we actually alter the purpose of the application as we're sitting here so that there's no delay? Is that possible?
We can do that. I mean, that's another option. I think the issue Mr. Nipfel raised is the fact that it wasn't circulated as such, so that some people may think it's just an addition at the back, right, with the deck rather than some of the other components.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Reed.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that it's come to this point, but I do agree with Carl's point that if someone is receiving this notice and doesn't have, detailed, an ability to read plans and really spend time understanding them, because these weren't the easiest plans to follow. I think that this is, I think this does warrant being recirculated.
Mr. Clay?
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to that view as well, for a variety of reasons, not the least of which what Carl lays out, but also, you think forward, if there is, and there are people that are opposing this, and if this were to go to TLAB, for example, on appeal, sufficient notice becomes a really important consideration that could affect any kind of appeal procedure as well. I think as much as frustrating as planning process can be, it's even more frustrating when it isn't followed. So I'm inclined to agree with a deferral so that proper notification can be undertaken.
Okay, so I get the sense that the majority are leaning toward deferral, so I'd just like to go to the 2 people that we have holding. So Ms. Kapusta, you there?
I am here.
Hi, you've been listening to the discussion, so there is, the purpose was not circulated correct, and the committee is leaning toward deferring this application, which means
I would support that, but with a caveat that there are a number of inaccuracies in the current submission that relate to the articulation of what is an existing condition. It's quite out of sync with what is actually there. So I would encourage those updates and corrections be made, because they both affect the numbers in the submission and the overall perception of the magnitude of what's being proposed.
Okay, so noted, thank you. Ms. Coe?
Hi there. Yes, my name is Jillian Coe, and I'm at 421 Parkside Drive. I'm unsure if we were consulted, as our backyard is diagonal to the property in question. However, I am not the homeowner. I am.
Can I just stop? Can I stop you, please? We're not dealing with the application right now. We are looking.
Yes, no, I understand that. Yeah, I'm just explaining who I am.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a resident of 421 Parkside Drive. I rent. I am not the owner, and our property is diagonal to the property. I am on side with it being deferred. The caveat would be that I would request that the signage not be posted behind the hedges of the property. It makes it quite difficult for those in the neighborhood walking by to see the signage. And I think that more people may want to get engaged if they could see the sign.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'd also, sorry, one just other thing. I'm also wondering if there's a way for the residents in 421 Parkside Drive to be notified, whether it's through our landlord or directly. I'm not sure if our landlord was contacted. He's not the best, so he may have
the address, the address is now noted, so it would be part of the circulation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, panel members, let's take it into committee then, and I think on behalf of all of us, Mr. Redgard, this is an unfortunate situation, and you know, the purpose was listed correct, I guess, on the zoning notice. So was this to you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, in terms of recirculation fees? Was this the city's error?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, this is the city's error.
Okay. So panel members, I would suggest that in any motion we waive recirculation fees, and also that we get it on the first available agenda. Okay, so I now defer to you. Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, I move that this application be deferred without a recirculation fee to the first the earliest agenda possible, working with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer as she committed, and that it would allow the applicant to update and correct information for a proper purpose to be circulated, and for a clear posting of the signage for the hearing.
Okay, that's your motion. Do I have a seconder? Moved by Mr. Reed. All in favor for the deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred, and Mr. Redgard, get in touch with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer so that we can get it back on as quickly as possible. Okay, item number 14. 23 Eastdale Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from Mr. Smith. We have an order to comply confirmation from the Manager of Inspection Services. We have 6 form letters in support signed by owners on Eastdale Avenue. That includes 21 and 25, which are the adjacent neighbors, from residence on Newman as well as one on Secord Avenue. Do I have the agent on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Jay Smith. I'm the agent for the application. My address is 2814 Hollington Crescent.
I have a question for you. Again, this is relating to the purpose. This is to legalize something that's there, right?
It is, Madam Chair. It was built without a permit.
Okay, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, how would you suggest we change the purpose?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can change the purpose to read to legalize and to maintain.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, I don't think we need a presentation on this one. Do you have any questions? No questions? Okay, Mr. Smith, we're ready to go into committee. Anything you feel you need to add that wasn't in the submissions? We've read all the materials.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Panel members, we're in committee. So the purpose is to legalize.
I'll go. As my colleagues will know, I'm never a fan of situations where applicants have proceeded to build things without the appropriate permits, and we should always discourage that and not condone that whatsoever. But in this case, just looking around the neighborhood and seeing what kind of housing stock is in that area, I don't think this proposal is at all out of character and not in keeping. The massing is towards the rear. You know, had it been before us initially, I don't think we would have had any difficulty in approving it. However, just do note that we don't condone these kinds of situations where building is taken without the appropriate authorization and permits. But having said that, I will move approval of this application.
Alrighty, do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed. So a motion to approve moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Your application has been approved unanimously. Thank you. Item number 15, 78 South Kingsway. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have email correspondence from Toronto Region Conservation Authority and Ravine and Natural Feature Protection. Again, they don't, hold on, I'm on the wrong page here. And both the TRCA and RNFP are okay. And I don't show any speakers. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes.
Whoa, you're coming in really loud.
Okay.
Can you just state your name for the record?
My name is Joe Dome, 1101 Steeles Avenue West, agent for the applicant.
And you're also the agent for the next item, item 16, right?
That's correct.
So
both designs are very similar.
Yeah, so that would be number 80 South Kingsway and 78. Can we do these together, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah? Okay, so we're going to do the two of them together because they're essentially the same. Panel members, do you need a presentation on this one? Seeing none, do you have any questions for the agent? No questions? Okay, Mr. Dome, we've read the materials. We have no questions. We're ready to take this into committee. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, if there are no questions, then I'm okay with moving to motion.
Okay, let's take it into committee for a decision. Panel members? Mr. Reed.
I'm happy to put forward a motion of approval for both 78 and 80. I think these are quite restrained in terms of new builds, in terms of the kind of variance of types of projects we see. These are on the lower end, and the variances being requested are minor. So I move approval of both files with no conditions.
Okay, Mr. Nipfel seconds, so motion to approve for 78 and 80 South Kingsway, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, both of those applications have been approved unanimously. Thank you. Item number 17, 33 Glenora Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, as well as a covering letter from the agent. We have staff reports from forestry. They're asking for conditions 1 and 2. We have four form letters in support from both adjacent neighbors at 31 and 35, as well as number 26, Glenora, and 45 Belvedere Avenue. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, hi there, I'm Drew Laszlo, agent for the owner.
Hi. Okay, panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any questions for Mr. Laszlo? Nope. All right, Mr. Laszlo, we've read the material. We're ready to go into committee. Anything you feel you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, I'm good, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, we're in committee, panel members. Any comments or a motion?
I'm happy to weigh in on this one. I thought this was a very straightforward application. There are other homes on that street in that neighborhood who have undertaken very similar renovations. Well, it's not actually a bungalow, but it is right for this kind of redevelopment. It's not surprising, and I thought the design was quite in keeping, and a good design has neighborhood support. I don't think this would have a negative impact at all on the street or the neighborhood, and I'm prepared to put forward a motion to approve, subject to forestry number 1 and 2.
Okay, Mr. Bayat, you second, so a motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay, item number 18, 81 Massey Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from Mr. Galbraith, the agent. We have forestry asking for condition number 1, correspondence in opposition from 101 Massey, as well as 148.5 Strawn Avenue. Late submission was received yesterday from 150 Strawn in opposition. And do I have the agent on the line?
Good afternoon.
Hi, can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
This is Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application.
Okay, I do have 2 speakers. Okay, in opposition, so I'm going to need you to do a presentation, and we'll start the clock now. You have 5 minutes.
If I could ask for the covering letter to be put on the screen, that would be great.
Sure.
So this is it's an unusual little block of very shallow properties. The subject property is the small little 1-story house in the middle of the screen there. And what is proposed is to add a 2nd story and then a 3rd story bump up to allow for rooftop access. If you'll note in this photo, the property immediately to its right or to its south is a full 3-story building. That's not what is proposed here. If you could scroll down, please. In this graphic, you can see the extent of the existing house, which has something like 76% lot coverage on this postage stamp property. And the blue area is the area that will be added primarily on the 1st and the 2nd floor. And then scrolling down to there's a 3D view a little bit further. There we go. So that gives you an impression of what is proposed. Essentially, it's primarily a 2-story top-up with rooftop access on the 3rd floor. There's no variance for height. There's no variance for length or depth. And the FSI is high, but it's absolutely reflective of FSIs in the neighborhood. And it's primarily because It's a small lot with a very high lot coverage, which is the condition up and down the block. The design, I think, has been very sensitively done by limiting third floor, the massing on the third floor. It helps reduce the shadow and overlook. At the request of a couple neighbors, we had a shadow study prepared, but it was, we only finished it a couple days ago, and that was too late to submit to committee. But I believe that it shows that the shadows are adequately controlled and are primarily generated by the larger three-story house immediately to the south. In my opinion, the variances are reasonable given the unique conditions of this property on this block, and do not create undue impacts on neighboring properties, and it meets the 4 tests. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Galbraith. Panel members, do you want to hold your questions till we hear from the opposition? Okay. Ms. Beach Johnson?
Through you, Madam Chair, we just have to switch over to YouTube stream. So
Okay, we need a couple of minutes to switch the YouTube feed. So just give us a couple minutes.
Anyone listen or watching on YouTube, you'll just switch over to the PM stream.